the stats are showing that, the women over 50 are kind of coming into their own right now. There's the gray divorce conversation. There's the women who are of kind of the premenopause and menopause age conversation all over Instagram. I think that the women who are in the 50-ish age range, and there's a lot of women in that age range, so they're really kind of feeling their own. They're feeling their power, and there also is a statistic that women are about to be the inheritors of a large amount of our country's wealth. And so you combine the fact that there's so many women in that demographic age range, and they're about to inherit a large portion of the wealth, that means that ad dollars are starting to migrate that way. So women of that age and everything are getting a lot of attention. So when that article is saying like the matriarchy is kind of the popular thing right now, is the matriarchy the popular thing, or are the ad dollars making it the popular thing? I would say it's the opposite. I would say that it's the ad dollars are going that direction. Like that's where revenue is flowing, because that's where money and power is centralized right now, is in the women over 50. And women over 50 are flexing. They are flexing their power because they recognize they have it. They are feeling it for the first time, maybe because, the nest is empty, and all of a sudden they're figuring out, because society is kind of allowing it, and we're all together helping find our own voices, that we don't have to let everybody else speak for us. We can speak for ourselves, and collectively as a group, we're speaking for each other. So the ad revenue is flowing our way, and I think that that's what we're seeing with Devil Wears Prada. I think we're seeing that with the cover, with Meryl Streep being on the cover, with Meryl Streep, frankly, being, one of the most sought out, actors or actresses of Hollywood. And then in so many other ways, I think just women over 50 are the power center right now.
Yeah. To piggyback on some of that data. So over 70% of U.S. wealth is in the 55 plus group. So brands are finally noticing. What should the women holding that money actually do with it that the brands aren't like teaching them? What's your advice there?
I mean, I think that the women who, have that kind of money need to educate themselves, maybe for the first time, of how to grow the money. That's, to me, is the key. And they need to be very careful who they listen to and how they get their education, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of conflicting information out there. And there's a lot of risky things that have to do with how you invest your money. There's very safe ways of investing that are maybe too safe. And I think women tend to not take risks, especially with money. I remember this one lady I encountered, she literally had cash in her mattress and had it in a savings account. I'm talking millions of dollars in a savings account. And if you have money in a savings account, you're literally losing money because the rate of interest doesn't meet the rate of inflation. So you're literally, every year, the rate of inflation is greater than the rate of interest on your savings account. You're literally losing money. So, so a savings account is not where it's at. And
why are they even calling it a savings account?
Well, right. And then your mattress is not even earning that a little bit of interest. So that's even worse, because inflation is eating away at the money in your mattress. So you need to at least be equaling, the rate of inflation. But T-bills or whatever, that may be too safe even as you're aging. There's got to be some amount of risk, but you don't necessarily want to go all in on something super risky. So be careful where you get your information. Be careful about how much risk you take on, but you also have to acknowledge there has to be some amount of risk in the market. Also, go long-term, not short-term. That's a general life philosophy and a philosophy of money.
You mentioned that they're inheriting all this wealth. So naturally, there are going to be predatorial figures or predators coming to, kind of vouch on that and take. So how do you identify maybe a predatory kind of business figure, or what are the kind of red flags?
Hard. It's so hard to know who to trust in that sense, because the ones who are least trustworthy seem the most trustworthy.
Tell me about that.
Like I call it the bedroom eyes syndrome. Like they'll just hypnotize you with all the good smells and pretty eyes. And, it's kind of like when you were young and dating. Like the ones that seem the prettiest and the smoothest are probably the ones you need to run from. So, what I would say is go find another woman of your age to talk to. I mean, that's generally my strategy is
reach out to the queen.
Go find a queen who is maybe more trustworthy. I just generally think that women are better at taking care of women. I mean, not to say that there aren't men who are good at that, but I also see that there's a lot of women that get taken advantage of out there in the market too. That
makes a lot of sense. Kind of call back to your gray divorce quote there. So 70% of gray divorces are initiated by the wife. And I think it says about 90% among college educated. Yeah. So what has changed? Stat, right? Talk to me about that. Yeah.
I love the way that stat is always worded, because they make it sound like women are the ones that are asking for the divorce.
Yes,
right?
That's how I read it.
Like stat says 70% of gray divorces are initiated by the wife. College educated women initiate 90%. So that makes it sound like women are asking for the divorce.
Yes,
right? Because they initiate. What does the word initiate mean? It means they went and fucking filed the divorce. 70 to 90%, and I would bet you if we looked at the younger women too, they go file the divorces too. Why is that? Women initiate divorces largely first because women do the paperwork of the world. Like women sign the homework cards. Women make sure that the kids have their little permission slips for being out for the sick day. Women make sure the paperwork gets done in the marriage. Women make sure that all the paperwork get done. Women do the paperwork in the situation. Period, full stop. Women do the paperwork. Men don't do the paperwork. Men have women for that. Men have their secretaries. Men have their assistants. Men have their wives. Men don't do paperwork. That's not a man's job. That's a woman's job.
And that's still the case today. Like that's how
that's still a case. I mean, men don't do paperwork at the office, at the court, at the courthouse. Who does the paperwork? The assistant, the paralegal, who's largely female. In the boardroom, who does the paperwork? The assistant, who's largely female. In the living room, who does the paperwork? Largely the wife. So in the divorce, who does the paperwork? The wife files the divorce, the paperwork. Doesn't mean it's what she wanted. It means she's accepting what is.
Yeah, that's facts. Man, that's crazy. I didn't even think about that. So what's the conversation you wish someone was having with the 55-year-old woman a year before she files?
Get ready. Prepare. Get some job skills. A lot of times, and most of the 50-ish women who get divorced that I see, they are completely unprepared for what their life is going to look like and how their life is going to change when the divorce happens. They are probably not going to be able to stay in the house. They're probably not going to have the same lifestyle that they're going to have. Like a lot of women, can't afford to stay in the house because they can't even afford to pay the taxes and insurance, even if the house was paid for, and why would you want to have cash that you could live on wrapped up in a piece of real estate, unless the real estate is going to appreciate greatly in value. But a piece of residential real estate is probably not going to do that. You could cash out of the residential real estate, get in a living situation that is cheaper, and put that same money in a multifamily situation and grow it faster. So really do a deep dive, realistic assessment of what your life is going to look like a year after the divorce is over, and get ready for that. Whether it's getting a job and maybe you've been a stay-at-home mom and now your nest is empty and you're not going to be a stay-at-home mom anymore. You're not going to be a stay-at-home wife anymore. Like he's running off with the secretary and going, playing golf all over the world and taking her with him. Like you're not going to be a stay-at-home wife anymore. You're going to have to go get a job. You're not going to be a lady who lunches anymore. Like you got to get a job, you got to downsize your situation, your expenses. You might not be able to, have all of the lavish things that you have now. You need to figure out your budget, figure out where you're going to live, figure out how you're going to pay for it, and not live on whatever nest egg you get out of the divorce, because that needs to be your retirement account.
Let's talk a little bit about Tradwifes.
Yep.
This is like very popular
Yes,
on the short format reels. I see a lot of this like Tradwife culture on Twitter too. So Tradwife on TikTok this week, apron, sourdough, 8 kids. What does the lawyer's version of the story look like 15 years later? Like, what is your opinion on Tradwifes in general? Like that whole aesthetic?
I think that Tradwives genuinely believe that they are fulfilling, in many cases, a faithful duty to God by being a traditional wife and carrying out the motherly duties and being the stay-at-home mom and doing the things like making the sourdough bread. And hey, I love a good loaf of sourdough bread. I love to can. I love to make jams and jellies, and I love to garden. Like, I love to do all those things too. And I very much agree in theory that if everything were utopia, having a stay-at-home mom take care of the kids the whole time while the stand-up guy is the working guy, I very much agree that that ought to be how it works out. For 50 to 60% of those women, that's not going to be how it works out. And of the other 40 to 50% that it does work out for them, the statistics are that at least half of those aren't even happy in their marriages. So only, a 20 percentile range are happy with the way things turned out. So what I would tell them is 10 years from now, he may trade you in on a younger model. So be the stay-at-home mom right now. Like, do that thing, but get some skills. Like, while the kids are napping, don't nap too. Do something that creates some skills for yourself that you could go and use in the marketplace. Create a little side hustle business for yourself, making the sourdough and selling it. Do something with the skills that you are doing as a Tradwife that can make money for yourself, that you can maybe put away in a savings account. Because the time that you are the Tradwife, that you are not in the marketplace, that you are not working, you are also not contributing to a retirement account, you're not contributing to Social Security, and I bet you money, most of those families are not contributing on that woman's behalf to an IRA on her, like for her for the future either. So either work that out so that you have your own retirement account that is contributing while you're being a stay-at-home mom, or create some little way of making money for yourself that you could rely on if everything goes sideways. Because in 50 to 60% of those marriages, it's going to go sideways.
What do you think about the whole like argument that the Tradwife, like you leveraging that aesthetic as a form of content to then create revenue channels? Is that something that you can advocate for, or how do you feel about that?
I mean, I think for those that it works for, good for them. But the reality is there's at least double or triple or quadruple that number that are trying to make it into content that it never turns out for. And I think that where content is going now, it's getting harder and harder and harder. I mean, we saw an article just today about Instagram kind of changing the algorithm to try to support people that are actually making content, because AI slop content is flooding social media right now.
Talk about it.
And the stats are saying that, like, if what's happening today keeps happening, within a year or two, social media won't even be social anymore. It'll all be AI slop. So if you think content creation is your pathway to having some money to rely on, like it has been for some people in the past, like, I just don't think that's realistic of where like social media is going. I mean, I think there's going to be something new. Maybe it's video blogging, like maybe it's Substack writing, maybe there will be something new come out of it. But like the Instagram mommies that have been the women making money off of it, like there's 100 more of them that aren't making money. And then there's all the AI that's coming that's just slop from some other country that is making money, that's taking the money out of all the actual real content creators. So I just don't think that's not a business plan. Like, that may be a side hustle, maybe a hobby, it may be fun, it may be something to do when you're having lunch with your girlfriends, but I don't think that's a business plan. Like, we need to have a real business plan.
No, that's bars. Catalyst says 455,000 women left the workforce in 2025. McKinsey is calling it an ambition gap. Catalyst says that's BS. Like, where do you land on that?
I think a man wrote that headline. A man probably called it an ambition gap because he don't get it.
No, yeah.
The problem is it's a glass ceiling gap that women are tired, women in corporate America are tired of hitting the same old glass ceiling, the same old bullshit rules, the same old bullshit, structure. And they're tired of that. And what I think is happening is they're leaving. This study said they're leaving to go do caretaking duties,
yes,
which is probably true. Like, they probably do have caretaking duties. So do almost all other women, whether it's their elderly parents or their children or their puppies. All women have caretaking duties. We also caretake for our husbands and the men in our lives. We are caretakers by nature. So to say that we have caretaking duties and that's why we leave the structure of corporate America, I don't buy that. I think this is a glossed over male perspective of a headline. What I think is happening is that women are going and building their own structure, their own entrepreneurial journeys. I think if you look at the similar statistics, the statistics show that women are starting their own businesses at record numbers right now. And that's what I think is happening, is that women are leaving the traditional structure to create their own structures.
So it's literally the opposite of an ambition gap.
Yeah, the absolute opposite of an ambition gap. They're actually just leaving the herd of cattle and the comfort zone that is supporting probably the male bosses and going and striking out and being trailblazers on their own and doing their own thing. And the herd's trying to guilt them back to coming back to work.
Yeah, I love that. For the women, Michelle, watching this, who maybe feel like they're in the herd and just don't know how to get out. I'm moving to the close here. What do you want her to hear? What do you want that woman to hear if she feels like she's kind of stuck as like part of the herd?
You have had a 100% success rate in life so far. You know how I know that? You're still here. You haven't died. You got up this morning. You successfully had your feet hit the ground this morning. Like, you are batting 1,000 this morning. So don't be scared. Like, don't let life make you scared. I have another saying. This one's not from my mama. This is a Michelleism.
Let's go, Michelleism.
Fear is a useless emotion. And if you are scared to walk away from the comfort zone, like, that is your emotion talking, and you can convince your brain literally of anything. So if you can convince your brain of anything, why not convince it that you can go do that thing you've been dreaming of doing, and then just go do it? Like, what is there to be afraid of? Like, failure? Oh, wait, failure is a learning opportunity. That's all it is.